We've all seen them in movies, museums, and those frozen food advertisements. Woolly mammoths, those giant, hairy elephant cousins with the massive curved tusks. But while today we might think of them as just cool prehistoric animals from the Ice Age movies, these incredible creatures were very real, and nowhere did they thrive more than in ancient Siberia. Siberia today is known for being ridiculously cold, remote, and vast. It's a place where winter temperatures can drop to -60 degrees, and where you can travel for days without seeing another human. But if you could travel back in time about 20,000 years ago, you'd find yourself in a completely different world. A world where massive herds of woolly mammoths roamed across what scientists now call the Mammoth Steppe. This wasn't the frozen, forest-covered Siberia we know today. The Mammoth Steppe was this incredibly productive grassland ecosystem that stretched from Spain all the way across Europe and Asia to Canada and Alaska. Think of it like the Serengeti of the Ice Age, except instead of lions and zebras, you had saber-toothed cats and woolly mammoths. And mammoths were the stars of this show. Standing up to 13 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing up to 6 tons, these weren't just slightly bigger elephants with fur. They were perfectly adapted Ice Age machines. Their small ears and short tails minimized heat loss. Their thick fur had both a dense undercoat and longer outer hairs that could reach 3 feet in length. They even had a special fat hump on their back, kind of like a camel, that stored energy for the harshest winter months. But the most impressive feature had to be those tusks. A fully grown male mammoth could have tusks over 15 feet long, curving in this dramatic spiral pattern. These weren't just for show either. Mammoths used their tusks to dig through snow to find food, to defend themselves, and probably to impress potential mates, just like how modern elephant bulls compete with their tusks. What's really wild about Siberian mammoths is that we know so much about them compared to other prehistoric animals. Why? Because Siberia's permafrost literally preserved them. While most fossils are just mineralized bones, in Siberia, we've found complete mammoths with skin, hair, and even stomach contents intact. Some are so well preserved that when scientists cut into them, they found still red muscle tissue and liquid blood. In 2013, a particularly amazing discovery happened when a mammoth nicknamed Buttercup was found on a remote Siberian island. This female mammoth was so well preserved that scientists could extract liquid blood from her tissues. This wasn't just exciting for paleontologists, it opened up the real possibility of potentially bringing mammoths back through cloning or genetic engineering. The most famous mammoth specimen has to be the baby mammoth named Lyuba, found by a reindeer herder in 2007. Lyuba was only about 1 month old when she died around 42,000 years ago. She was so perfectly preserved that scientists could see the milk from her mother's last feeding still in her stomach. They could even see the bacteria that her mother had passed to her to help her digest plants, the same way modern elephant mothers do. It's details like this that make these ancient animals feel so real and not just like characters from the Ice Age movies. Speaking of food, what did these massive animals eat? A full-grown mammoth needed to consume about 400 pounds of vegetation every single day. Their diet consisted mainly of grasses, sedges, and other plants that made up the Mammoth Steppe. We know this because scientists have literally found the plants still preserved in their stomach contents and stuck between their teeth. But here's where things get really interesting. Mammoths weren't just passive grass eaters. They were actually ecosystem engineers, similar to how modern elephants shape their environments. Their massive weight compacted the soil as they walked. Their tusks cleared snow and broke up the ground. Their dung fertilized the soil. And their grazing patterns prevented forests from taking over the grasslands. Some scientists even believe that the mammoths were so important to maintaining the Mammoth Steppe ecosystem that when they disappeared, the entire ecosystem collapsed. Without mammoths to maintain it, the productive grassland gave way to the less productive tundra and forest we see in Siberia today. So what happened to all these mammoths? Well, that's where the story gets a bit controversial. For decades, scientists have debated whether mammoths were hunted to extinction by humans or whether climate change was the culprit. The evidence now points to a combination of both. As the Ice Age began to end around 15,000 years ago, the climate started warming. This changed the vegetation patterns and began shrinking the mammoth's habitat. At roughly the same time, humans were spreading across the mammoth's range with increasingly sophisticated hunting techniques. Stone spear points found with mammoth bones show that humans were definitely hunting them. What's really fascinating is that mammoths didn't all disappear at once. While most mainland populations were gone by about 10,000 years ago, some isolated populations survived much longer on islands. On Wrangel Island, off the coast of Siberia, a dwarf population of mammoths survived until just 4,000 years ago. That means mammoths were still alive when humans were building the pyramids in Egypt. The story of mammoths in Siberia isn't just ancient history, it's still unfolding today. As climate change thaws Siberia's permafrost, more and more mammoth remains are being discovered. This has created a bizarre modern industry, mammoth tusk hunting. With international bans on elephant ivory, mammoth tusks have become incredibly valuable. People called tusk hunters brave the remote Siberian wilderness searching for exposed tusks that can sell for thousands of dollars per pound. This mammoth ivory trade is controversial. Some argue it takes pressure off living elephants by providing a legal alternative to elephant ivory. Others worry it helps maintain the market for all ivory and makes it easier to smuggle illegal elephant ivory by claiming it's mammoth. Beyond the ivory, the thawing permafrost is revealing other mammoth secrets. Scientists are finding preserved DNA, which is teaching us more about mammoth evolution and diversity. We now know there were actually several different species of mammoths, and that they were genetically closer to Asian elephants than to African elephants. The mammoth DNA is so well preserved that some scientists are seriously working on bringing mammoths back through genetic engineering. The idea would be to take DNA from preserved mammoths and use it to modify Asian elephant cells, creating an elephant-mammoth hybrid with mammoth traits like cold resistance and thick fur. Some researchers believe we could see the first mammoth born this way within the next decade. But why would we want to bring back mammoths? Some scientists argue that returning mammoth-like animals to the Arctic could help fight climate change. The theory is that these animals would compact the snow in winter, exposing the ground to the cold air and keeping the permafrost frozen. They would also knock down trees, helping to maintain grasslands that reflect more sunlight than forests do. Whether or not we ever see mammoths again, their story reminds us that our world is constantly changing. Species that once seemed invincible can disappear, and environments that seem permanent can transform. The mammoth steppe that once covered a third of Earth's land surface is gone, replaced by different ecosystems. Yet in the frozen ground of Siberia, these magnificent animals remain, preserved as if waiting to tell us their stories. Every tusk, every bone, every strand of hair gives us another piece of the puzzle about what our world was like when these real-life giants walked the earth.